Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nintendo Pipeline Podcast. I'm your guest host for today, Mina, and joining me today, we got...
One Up Muffin, but you can call me Jared.
It's
And...
CMM, but you can call me Clay.
And it's James! You know who I am.
You know who he is. I'm back. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast, right? I think,
Yep.
Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, more or less, when that came out.
Yep.
But I'm here, not only did they ask me to come back to talk about sales numbers, that's what this episode's about, they told me, Mina, you have to host this. So,
Yep.
I humbly obliged.
Well, that's because you have all this knowledge packed into your head about these numbers that video games sell.
Quite
I'm
frankly,
an idiot.
I mean, quite frankly, that might be the only knowledge I possess. Yeah, so much information is stored about Nintendo sales, I don't have room for anything else.
Oh, man.
Don't forget your name and breathing.
Your wedding
Yeah.
day is going to be amazing.
So, we have a lot to talk about. So, Nintendo just did their quarterly sales reports, as they do. And, of course, this was a big one. This was the holiday season. So, that's always the biggest numbers of the year. And not only did we have the holiday year-end sales, we get big sales for kind of everything, but they had a lot of new releases this quarter, right? We had Metroid Dread, Mario Party Superstars, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain.
The most important and biggest of all.
Oh, yeah. So it was a big quarter for Nintendo. And obviously their evergreens just continued to sell as they do. And so I want to kind of talk about that. I want to talk about the new releases first. Let's get into that, okay?
Yeah.
I start with Metroid Dread, the thing that opened the quarter. So Metroid Dread sold 2.7 million units. Now, to put that into context, that's like 100K away from being the best-selling Metroid game ever. And it did that in 3 months.
And that includes the primes, right? Like, that's
Yes,
not just
yeah.
the 2D Metroids.
So the current best-selling game in the Metroid franchise is Metroid Prime 1 on the GameCube. It's like 2.85 or something. So it's literally like 100K off from dethroning Metroid Prime to be the best-selling Metroid. Quite frankly, it probably has reached that as we are speaking, though we're not going to find out till April, obviously.
Yep.
But yeah, resounding success, I think we can say, right? I think that Metroid Dread, it's just undeniably, like, Metroid is back, like, this is pretty, to put this into perspective also, because I think we have kind of, over time, we have a little, in my opinion, overcorrected into how small of a franchise Metroid is. Right? Because it used to have a really big perception, and then over time it's like, oh no, but actually it's not this big of a seller, right? But almost 3 million copies, that's more than Fire Emblem did at launch, that's more than Kirby has done, Kirby Star Allies, which was the second best on Kirby ever, right? Like, Metroid Dread is... this is just an outstanding result. I think Metroid did really, really well.
I have a question about Metroid. Is 3 million, you said, is the, like, ceiling, give or take?
Yeah.
Is that a ceiling that all Metroids tend to hit? Or are we looking
not
at,
even
like,
close.
substantially less on, like, say, Zero Mission or Fusion?
Zero Mission wasn't even a million seller.
Okay.
Metroid. Quite frankly, Metroid Prime selling almost 3 million was kind of an anomaly for that franchise.
Very much the exception.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't following video game sales in ye old 2003. I was barely able to follow the conversations about video games on the internet back then.
That's for the better.
Yeah, no, it was
more.
absolutely great. There were so many words I did not have to read. But so what about like Prime 2 and Prime 3? Or were those substantially less than 3 million or
So the only game that got close to 3 million as well was Metroid 1, the NES game.
No shit.
Yeah, that is the only game that cut close to 2 million. That was just... It's basically what Metroid Dread is at. They're essentially tied, Metroid 1 and Metroid Dread right now.
So
yeah.
What do you think you chalk this up to? Do you think it's that everybody in video games is more like acclimated to the concept of a Metroid game now that Metroidvanias are where indies are at largely? Is it just like the thirst was real for Metroid, or what? Like,
honestly, I think it's kind of all of the above, right? Like, I think the Switch in particular, but so indies have been carrying this genre for a long time, right? And we've had some real breakout hits like Hollow Knight first and foremost, right? And those have been hits especially on the Switch, and so the Switch audience has kind of been primed for a game like this. And I think that the stock of Metroid as a franchise has kind of risen in the gaming lexicon. Like, it kind of slowly became this, like, oh, this is this, like, long-lost, like, amazing Nintendo franchise, right? Like, these games are as good as, like, Mario and Zelda, but, like, they just don't make them anymore, right? That's kind of the conversation that was being had around Metroid.
It has, like, the prestige thing going on.
It helps also.
I used to think of Mario, Zelda, and Metroid in, like, the same, like, the big three, and then Metroid totally fell off.
See, to me, like, I never thought of Metroid as, like, the third pillar of Nintendo. If you want my honest take, and I know it's not theirs wholly, but to me it was always Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon.
And Pokemon, yeah, and that's a more accurate assessment, right?
When I think of, like, the console games and, like, the, like, Super Nintendo and, like, GameCube, like, those...
Right, everybody always talked about Super Metroid, but to me...
I do get how Pokemon has just always been bigger.
My perspective as someone who grew up with those consoles, and throughout, like, this whole time period, is that Metroidvania-style games always kind of skewed more toward the, like, weirdo gamer, the person who's real deep in those trenches, you know.
And so I would say though with Metroid Dread, or I mean not with Metroid, with those Metroid games, with those older Metroid games, and the kind of the what's called reputation that it had, I wouldn't say it was in the big three in terms of sales. It clearly wasn't, right? You look at those old sales numbers and you're like, what? But I do think there's some fairness to Metroid did have that. In terms of prestige, though, in terms of critical reception,
sure,
right?
Sure.
I mean, Super Metroid and Metroid Prime are some of the best received games of all time, in contention, constantly in talks of, like, when you see a greatest games of all time list, you are guaranteed to see Metroid Prime. You are guaranteed to see Super Metroid. You know?
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I do think that Metroid has always had a prestige to its name, maybe not reflected in sales, right? But I do think it has been important to Nintendo in that sense, at least. It helps like it helps with the narrative that Nintendo truly just does make the best games, right? Which is something they want you to think, obviously.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that Zelda is, if you want to talk purely sales, Zelda's hardly up there with Mario and Pokemon as well. Like, Breath of the Wild is, sure, but...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but before Breath of the Wild, like, Zelda and Mario had a pretty big gulf, right?
Yeah.
But
like, they would be, like, the system. They're, like, people who, like, say they're in Nintendo are most likely into one of those three series.
If not all three, sure. And people are like, oh man, Zero Suit Samus is in Smash, and she's really good, and she's really hot, and I want to play that game. And then you get it, and she's in this power art. Nah. But no, I'm really happy that Dread did well, because Dread slaps. And
I'm so happy for its success. Again, I think like we should put Dread's success into context. Like it is not up there in terms of the Switch's greatest sellers, right? But again, it's above Fire Emblem's launch, it's above Kirby's launch, and Kirby and Fire Emblem, you associate them as pretty big Nintendo franchises, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so I think you know, I think it is notable that Metroid started ahead of those games. You know, more than Donkey Kong. You know.
They really like advertised Dread like a huge, like their pillar game of that year, and like.
Oh yeah, I mean the other games that we're about to talk about did way fucking better, right? But I do think Metroid Dread was positioned as like, this is our game this year, right? Mm-hmm. And so it kind of once again it goes back to that Metroid has that prestige, right? But again, I think this was just very much a success. You know,
they even launched OLED alongside of it as kind of like a look into how they see it as this prestige title for the most, their most, special hardware or whatever.
Oh yeah. That I even forgot about that. They launched it right alongside the new model, so I mean, that kind of tells you like Nintendo does see value in this franchise, right? And that's great to see. I'm very happy for Metroid.
More than anything, I'm just happy that this really guarantees more 2D Metroid going forward.
Oh yeah, and to be fair, Sakamoto basically already confirmed that, right? It was like, hey, before the game even came out, they're just so confident in Metroid right now, and I guess Mercury seems to work on Metroid, that they were just like, yeah, we're gonna do another one,
Yeah.
And that's very exciting. I'm happy, and I do think, to frame it back into sales. Do you think what do you think this means for Metroid Prime 4? Do you feel more bullish on it? Do you feel? Tell me your thoughts on Prime 4.
5 million.
Okay.
That's how I'm.
I mean, I think this sets an expectation.
I think the Prime 4 is going to be bigger than this, and I think this is already really good, so I have high hopes for the sales of Prime 4 unless they fuck it up.
I feel like this is like the floor for Prime 4 now, right?
I mean, it's interesting because this game is... I'm going to say something. I don't mean this to be detrimental to it. It's kind of a by-the-numbers 2D Metroid game.
Oh, I agree.
It has some deviations here and there from the norm, but for the most part, it's a 2D... It's not a Breath of the Wild moment, so to speak, as much as I hate to use that phrase. It's been done into the ground over the past, 5 years. By the way, it's been 5 years since Breath of the Wild came out.
Oh my god, I was in college when that game came out.
How's it feel to age? I hope your bones are turning to dust. But I think that Metroid Prime 4, when you consider its development situation and how Nintendo kind of showed up at Bamco one day and was like, woo, yikes, and gave it to Retro... I have to wonder if Retro is going to give Metroid Prime, at least, its breakout moment,
I hope so. That's the hope. And I think if that does happen, I do think the sky's kind of the limit for Prime 4 sales,
Yeah, absolutely.
I am kind of bullish on Prime 4. If they nail it, if it is what, and, it's a lot to say, right? But if it is that breakout moment, that Breath of the Wild moment for Prime 4, I could see 7-8 million units, honestly.
Sure.
I really think that
I thought I was being bold with 5.
Oh, no, I'm very bullish on Prime 4 right now, to be honest with you.
I mean, I didn't expect Breath of the Wild's numbers, and I know that was, bolstered quite a bit by the fact it was the only worthwhile launch title for a popular new system. But
Bomberman R was there.
But Breath of the Wild's legs have been insane.
Oh, I mean, I would say Breath of the Wild's legs are more impressive than its initial sales, right?
Yeah.
It's at 3 million.
Let's talk about Breath of the Wild real quick. Let's swerve a little bit. Breath of the Wild sold another 3 million, another 4 million this fiscal year.
That's insane.
Yeah,
very impressive. Almost 4 million. I'm sorry, it was 3.5 million.
3.5, yeah.
But it'll be at 4 by the end of the fiscal year for sure.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's averaging over 1 million per quarter. Still, over 1 million people every single 3 months are picking up Breath of the Wild.
And that game is full price, and
that game is still of the year. $60. Every now and then they discount it to maybe 40?
45.
Right? 45. The game is selling at $60. It is Breath of the Wild is their third or fourth best evergreen seller, right? And to put Breath of the Wild's success into context, because I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she pointed out that, I kind of forgot about this. At the first year of the Switch, up until 2018, Mario Odyssey actually had sold better than Breath of the Wild at first.
Yeah.
Mario Odyssey, out the gate, sold more than Breath of the Wild. And that generally is what happens, right? Every single system, if you look at Zelda and Mario, the equivalent Zelda and Mario game, right? the Mario game will always have sold more. Galaxy sold more than Twilight Princess. Mario World sold more than Link to the Past, etc., right? Yep. Breath of the Wild has now outsold Mario Odyssey by almost 3 million.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yep. That's just incredible.
I attribute that a lot to just like Breath of the Wild is just amazingly strong, like word of mouth. Like my cousin just got into Breath of the Wild this year. She's had a Switch for probably like 3 years now. But she's loving Breath of the Wild now, and it's like this game just keeps going around just because people always say how much they love it, and it's on every like best game list now.
Yeah,
and
my sister
even had it Zelda like that for a long time.
My sister's not a huge gamer. Well, granted, they bought it on the Wii U, but they still bought Breath of the Wild because of the hype. They would have bought it on the Switch if they had one at the time, I imagine. But no, it is kind of insane to see. One quick aside about Metroid Dread before we move on forever.
Oh, sure.
I'm here for Sakamoto's redemption arc.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
Other M is a fresh nightmare that I will never forget. Terrible, just awful. But I'm glad that he landed on his feet.
And everyone's allowed to have a flop, you know.
Sakamoto got his redemption. Mercury Steam got the redemption. Everyone involved is just redeemed. So we're very happy about that. By the way, if you think it's crazy that Breath of the Wild has sold better than Mario, any Mario game on the platform, not counting Mario Kart, Breath of the Wild. So just imagine, okay, so it's never outsold the same Mario game on the same platform. Sure, it's pretty crazy that it did that, but it has also outsold the new generation Pokemon game on the system. Not only the new generation Pokemon game on the system, the second best-selling Pokemon games of all time, only behind Pokemon Red and Blue. Breath of the Wild has sold more than that.
I think Pokemon might catch up. Especially...
No, it won't, because, and I'll tell you why, Breath of the Wild consistently sells more than Sword and Shield every single quarter.
Fair enough. I didn't know
every single quarter. Breath of the Wild sells more than Sword and Shield.
That makes me very happy about the state of video games.
And that's not to say Sword and Shield is selling poorly.
Gives me a warm fuzzy feeling.
Right. Sword and Shield is selling incredibly, and I want to talk about that in a second.
Oh no, I don't mean that Pokemon's failing or anything. I'm just happy
I know
that Zelda is doing well.
But I'm saying it's not even to say Sword and Shield has amazing legs, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that Breath of the Wild is just even more ludicrous. It is consistently
legs,
Smash Ultimate and Breath of the Wild basically sell the same amount every single quarter.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that Breath of the Wild is nearly as good selling as Smash. That's mind blowing. Because Smash to me feels so much bigger than Zelda.
Yeah, you would think, right? But no, they have been toe to toe all of this whole generation.
Yeah, they are less than 2 million apart right now.
Do you? Well, here's the thing, though. Here's a question for you. There's probably, I say probably, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I don't expect a Pokemon game this November.
No.
I think that there will be Arceus DLC at most.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking.
So, and Sword and Shield also has this weird distinction of being the only modern or current Pokemon game that's actually the meta to play online. The group or the Diamond and Pearl remakes are different. Arceus doesn't even have multiplayer.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild's about to have its sales legs chopped off this year, right?
I actually disagree.
I don't think so, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think Breath of the Wild 2 will do it?
No, I think that they will sell alongside each other, to be honest with you. I think in the lead up to Breath of the Wild 2, as we get closer to Breath of the Wild 2, I think a lot more people are going to buy Breath of the Wild in preparation for Breath of the Wild 2, in fact.
Yeah. That's something that I would even see, anecdotally when I was still working at game stores where, a series like Call of Duty, right? It would have a new game about to come out and people would kind of go in and grab the most recent one kind of in preparation for it. Has that sort of effect. And that's kind of what I see for Zelda.
That's a weird thing that I would not expect the common video game consumer to
but nothing about the Switch software sales and Evergreens in particular is common, right? All of this defies logic. And we can see that in particular. Let's look at Mario Party, right? So Mario Party Superstars right out the gate has sold as well as Super Mario Party did when that came out, right? About almost 5.5 million. It's just above what Super Mario Party did in its launch quarter, right? So Mario Party Superstars off to a great start, but here's the secret: Super Mario Party, which I think all of us would agree, should not be selling any more copies because Mario Party Superstars has come out and it's just so much better.
Neither right? Should be selling.
Well, sure. But Super Mario Party is continuing to sell. Its legs have not been cut down any sort of way, despite the release of Mario Party Superstars.
I'm very curious to see, especially next quarter, to see what additional, and the next couple quarters to see how Super Mario Party continues to stand. Because my personal belief is that it and Superstars are so very differentiated from each other that there is reason to own both, and they're so different that they don't cannibalize one another.
I suppose, but in my brain, I'm like, if you're buying a Mario Party, you should be buying Superstars, right? But no,
I've even heard some this is completely anecdotal, but I've heard some people who tried Superstars and found it a bit tough to get into, and then kind of ended up enjoying Super Mario Party more for their speed. Granted, that's anecdotal, and I doubt that it's the majority of cases, but I do think that they're different enough that there's merit to each one.
It's in my brain, and this is me forgiving the fact that it's Mario Party to begin with. I wouldn't expect the newest iteration of a game like Mario Party to not be the best-selling one. I actually am kind of curious now if that's the way it's always been. I would love to see sales numbers on the Mario Party trilogy on the 64. It's when 3 came out, do people just stop buying 1?
I mean, quite frankly, back then games just didn't have the legs that they did before, right? So sure. I would doubt that they. If I had to bet, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if I had to bet, generally when a new Mario Party came out, that generally meant the end for the last Mario Party sales wise. Right?
That's what I would expect, yeah.
You might not even be able to buy it in most stores.
Right. But again, I can't say for sure if that's true or not.
I don't have the numbers in front of me either, but I seem to remember that even despite that, Mario Party 1 was still the best selling of the 3.
Mario Party 1 sold the best by far,
64.
Yeah. But, so Super Mario Party, though, defies any sort of logic.
Well, let's give it another... I mean, before we really get too crazy about it,
sure, we'll see next quarter. But it's quite interesting.
It is impressive. The fact that it sold 17.5 million units is horrifying to me. Disappointing in a way, I guess. I don't know.
I've soured on that game quite a bit. But I do think, I still think Mario Party, I am of the belief Mario Party is pretty dang good.
I don't think it's good, but I think it has its place. And
Superstars is a good game.
Its place is over there away from me.
Fair enough.
It'd be really funny, James?
What?
Is if, so I think Odyssey managed to move a little over another 2 million so far this year, and Super Mario Party has managed to move a little over 2.5 million this year. And it would be very, very funny to me if Super Mario Party outtook Odyssey in terms of total numbers.
So you want to see me turn into an ardent Mario Odyssey fanboy?
I'm going to see you turn into Arlo.
That could happen.
I'm one of those psychopath weirdos that likes 3D World better than Odyssey.
I am too. Don't worry.
But you could get me a Cappy, dude. I will start praising Super Mario Odyssey like no other if it means keeping it above Super Mario Party.
I think it'll stay above it for at least a while.
I think Odyssey will stay above it, but it would be very funny if Super Mario Party.
I think Super Mario Party will keep selling, but I definitely think it will slow down a bit.
I mean the gap is too big. Also, the gap is 5 million, which is smaller than you would think. The brand new 3D Mario. Also, it's funny because I think Odyssey, because everything else is just doing so obnoxiously amazing, we almost kind of downplay how well Odyssey has been doing, right? But Odyssey is still the best-selling 3D Mario game by a wide margin, right?
Yeah.
Almost double Super Mario Galaxy, which is the second best-selling 3D Mario. Has continued to sell really well. And if this was any other generation, selling 2 million copies 4 years after release would be seen as very impressive, But because we are in Bizarro world, and it just seems way less than impressive than it actually. But it is actually pretty freaking impressive.
I mean, it doesn't help much that the Switch is kind of inundated with Mario games.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Zelda's not,
I mean, about it, do you know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games with the name Mario that have sold another 1 million copies in the last fiscal year? Wow. 7 if you count Luigi in there. There's a lot of Mario games, but they're all doing pretty dang well, including Mario 3D World. Mario 3D World is almost at 9 million units.
That's amazing.
It's done that within a year. Very impressive performance for 3D World and Bowser's Fury.
For half a port.
Redeemed.
Yeah.
That
redeemed.
game...
Skyward Sword even outpassed its original game,
yes, it did.
which is not
Skyward
common.
Sword has outdone its original release, which basically never happens.
Well, so did 3D World.
Yes, 3D World did by a fair margin.
It almost doubled.
Also, 3D World added more content than Skyward Sword did. It was on a more popular platform.
That's fair. Sure. I agree with that. I mean, Skyward Sword also came out after the Wii was essentially dead, to be fair.
And I meant Skyward Sword was on a more popular platform.
Yeah, sure. Mario 3D World only did 5.8 million copies on the Wii U, so it's almost doubled what it's done on the Wii U.
Well, that's pretty much everyone who had a Wii U.
That's a good chunk of Wii U owners, and it's probably gonna double it within the next 6 months, honestly.
I mean, it's going to move to 10 mil soon.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a 10 million seller. By the way, so previously the record for 10 million first party sellers, the amount of first party titles that have passed 10 million, on a system, the previous record holder is the Nintendo, not the Wii, had, or the Wii or DS, I don't remember. I think it was DS.
It was one of the two.
One of them has 9 and one of them has 10 million sellers. The Switch now has 13, if I recall correctly.
There's at least 10 or 12 on this list.
It is absurd. The amount of 10 million sellers, and there's still so much to come, right? 3D World's gonna pass that barrier. Pokemon Arceus is gonna get there. Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna get there. When it's all said and done, the Switch is probably gonna have 20 10 million sellers, which is double what the Wii and DS had.
The Wii had 9 and the DS had 10. By the way,
and the DS had 10.
Looking at the charts.
Yeah. And one of those 10 million sellers, by the way, is Luigi's Mansion 3. Just crossed 11 million units.
I never thought Luigi's Mansion would become a big series.
Yeah, I mean, on the 3DS, it did extremely well for itself. It definitely did. I think what it ended up doing, over 5
million or something,
or 6 million, yeah. And I thought that was impressive, and I also believed that it would do even better on Switch. But I don't know that I saw it going to double-digit million.
Oh, I mean, the jump it's gotten from its 3DS entry is mind-boggling. Luigi's Mansion is a tentpole franchise now with that with the numbers it's pulling.
How much did one sell?
Luigi's Mansion 1 did 2-3 million. I don't remember.
That's a GameCube game.
It's a GameCube game.
True.
And then the second game did 6 million. So it's been on the rise, but Luigi's Mansion 3 just defies all odds. It is done so incredibly well.
It's massive.
Yeah, it's not. I guess it's not quite enough to be on this top-selling 3DS software list because it's not in the top 10. But what's interesting is the number 10. You said it was around 6 million for Luigi's Mansion, probably.
Yeah.
Give or take. The number 10 is also around 6 million. It's Tamagotchi Life, and now I'm man. When they drop Tamagotchi Switch, it's gonna go. Wild.
That thing is gonna do so well.
That's gonna sell that's gonna sell 20 million copies, and everyone's gonna shit their pants.
I would not be surprised.
It's probably one of the last. I think the last major 10 million plus seller on 3DS that does not have a
yeah.
Switch
It's the only game on the top 10 3DS software that doesn't have a sequel on Switch yet.
Yeah, so I mean I'm sure that is not
even if
I'm sure they are perfectly aware of that.
Even if the
I think Metopia was
port.
like a training for that.
Well, we could talk about
like
Metopia now then.
That
yeah, I mean,
3DS,
Metopia was a port. It outdid its 3DS version already, 1.6 million copies.
Yeah.
Good for Metopia.
Yeah, and HD 3DS games look nice on the Switch, like HDified 3DS style.
Yeah. I think
they
Metopia,
they did a lot to Metopia to its visuals.
It's definitely not a simple port. It is definitely not a simple port. Like, they put a lot of work into it, and it paid off seemingly. Like, it's doing well. It'll continue to do well. These kind of games tend to have really good legs, right? Like me-focused games in the past have had just really good legs. So good for Metopia. Also, by the way, so let me talk about a special trio of games. WarioWare Get It Together, Big Brain Academy, and Game Builder Garage all crossed 1 million units. Now, Game Builder came out in June, WarioWare came out in September, so it took them a little bit longer. Big Brain did that immediately. It came out in December. It came out in December, and it immediately shot to 1 million copies.
And these numbers, by the way, they end at the end of December.
Yeah, they end at the end of December.
It hit that.
Big Brain Academy
it hit
literally
that
did this
before the end. It hit that before it was out for a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it came out on what, the 8th or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally like 3 weeks of sales, more or less. Like
that's insane.
Do we think Big Brain's at like 3 million now?
Oh no, I don't think it's that high. I think most of the sales will be in the holiday season. But nonetheless, like, and I wouldn't be surprised come next holiday that it shows up on the million seller list again. You know, I would not be surprised at all. Yeah, and hey, WarioWare and Game Builder, like, I don't think anyone expected those games to hit 1 million so quickly.
No.
Game Builder in particular, Game Builder was like, I was not expecting that to be 1 million seller at all.
I actually would have, of those three, I would have said that WarioWare would have been the one that would have made it over the line. Just because it has name recognition. I didn't realize how many people out there liked Big Brain Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have, I don't know if this, do we have like hard numbers on what the DS game did?
Big Brain Academy on DS was a pretty big seller, but nowhere near Brain Age. Brain Age was clearly... Yeah. Brain Age was just way above. Big Brain Academy
Brain Age
DS,
would be so high if they could sell it in America.
Big Brain Academy on the DS did 6 million copies.
There's a VG sales fandom wiki, and I was like, well, I don't know if I can trust these numbers, but they're literally referencing install base. Which,
that's because I'm on install base right now. I'm looking at the install base.
So this says for the DS and the Wii versions of Big Brain Academy, the DS did 6.15 million, and the Wii version did 3.3 million. That's insane. Big
Brain Academy did pretty well, but it is one of those
Big
franchises
Sale Academy, dude. What the hell?
But it is one of those franchises that you would have expected to have a big decline from the Wii and DS era, right? Because I think Wii and DS era software, you just kind of assume, okay, like, those games were just so specifically tied to those systems, and like, you know, like brain training games, fitness games, stuff like that, right? It feels like those games had their moment in that generation, right?
Yeah,
sure. But I think people underestimate the touch generation.
But they are replicating their success on Switch, and I think that's very, very notable. You know, I think this is also a good sign that, hey, I think if they brought back Nintendogs, I think on the Switch it would actually be really big seller. You know?
Bring back Sing. I need more Hotel Dusk.
You know, another game that is not on the million seller list for this year, from what I see, but has still been doing very consistently and is also from that era, is Clubhouse games.
Yeah, Clubhouse games.
I'm sad that Clubhouse isn't on here.
Clubhouse continues to do really well. It's not obviously it's not like a million seller per year kind of deal, but I would bet it has.
It's at like over 3 million right now.
So.
Yeah, I bet it's like not that much below this list.
Yeah, I mean,
there's something I wanted to point out. Those 3 games, the Big Brain, the WarioWare, and the Game Builder, they're they are all more popular in Japan than Metroid, which I just think is like a very like just like wild thing of like the exact opposite than like the rest of the world. That like Japan still like they like Metroid, but like they would rather Game Builder, WarioWare, and Brain.
I mean, Game Builder in particular. Game Builder in particular is notable because the ratio is basically 40-60. Actually a little more, maybe closer to like 45-55. From Japan to overseas. So Japan alone did a lot of heavy lifting for Game Builder Garage. That's actually, I off the top of my head, I can't tell you for sure, but off the top of my head, I think that is like the second highest ratio of Japanese to overseas sales that we've seen this gen. The highest being Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Japan really carried Pikmin 3 Deluxe.
And God bless them for it.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Pikmin is kind of wild that it did that crazy in Japan. But yeah, another notable thing I would say, Mario Golf Super Rush came out in June.
Yes,
sold over 2 million copies. It is on pace with Mario Tennis, which seems pretty crazy. I mean, Mario Tennis has basically always been way more popular than golf. So the fact that golf is having Tennis Aces level success, that's pretty freaking impressive.
If I'm not mistaken, is it accurate that that Golf Super Rush is currently the highest selling Mario Golf?
Oh yeah, by far
in the series. Yeah,
undoubtedly.
It is. I mean, even more so. I think here's a crazy stat. It's done better than every Mario Tennis game that's not named Aces.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. So Mario so to say like Mario Golf is doing really freaking well.
I should play Super Rush more. I bought that shit on launch day and I think I've played it twice. And it's not because I didn't like it. It just came out at a really bad time.
I mean they've doubled the content since then, right?
Yeah, I usually get lost in Mario Golf games. The 3DS game, dude, weeks.
Yeah.
Just weeks. That game was like crack to me.
I grind Mario Golf Super Rush every month.
Cool.
For the costumes and stuff.
Oh, there's costumes? God, I'm screwed. I shouldn't look at that.
I have a question. Why does Pokemon Snap have 0 sales in Japan?
I was about to ask that. I was like, did that game not come out?
So, New Pokemon Snap has sold 2.3 million copies overseas, right? Mm-hmm. However, the Pokemon Company publishes that game themselves in Japan.
Oh,
and so Nintendo only reports on things that they publish, right? Mm-hmm. And so New Pokemon Snap, they did not have involvement with in Japan, the Japanese release. So that's why. So because the mainline Pokemon games, those games are co-published. In Japan, Pokemon Company and Nintendo both publish those games, right? Together. But the spin-offs, generally, the trend is Pokemon Company. And that's not always true. Like Mystery Dungeon is published by Nintendo. It's kind of a crapshoot sometimes, but sometimes Pokemon Company just goes it alone for whatever reason.
So what you're telling me is
that's really interesting.
So it's sold more than 2.36 million.
Oh yeah. Okay. By another, at least I think like 400K. I want to say.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Probably
that 2.3 is a little misleading for sure because Japan is obviously a big market for Pokemon.
There's like an asterisk that says like this title is licensed to be sold as a Nintendo product overseas. So I didn't know what that meant.
And now you know. So that asterisk generally it just means like they didn't publish it in Japan, but they did publish it overseas.
So right? that's a pretty good turnout for a Pokemon spinoff.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
awesome.
definitely. I mean, Pokemon Snap in its origin was already one of the better selling Pokemon spinoffs. Period.
Sure.
Right.
That was a long time ago.
But that was a long time ago. But like the 64, that era of Pokemon was that was Pokemania, right?
Sure.
And so N64 Pokemon spin-offs to this day are the best-selling Pokemon spin-offs, right? Pokemon Stadium sold more than 5 million copies.
No shit, really?
Yeah.
No, I mean
Pokemon Pinball 3 could sell over 1 million.
They're better selling than even the ones that came out on the handhelds, like Pinball and.
Well, no. Actually, I'm pretty sure Pokemon Stadium is the best-selling Pokemon spin-off, like, period.
That's wild, dude.
I could be corrected on that, but Yeah.
Well, it's because the N64 had such a comparatively low install.
Okay, the Pokemon Pinball basically did the same, just a little bit less, but yeah, basically the same.
Interesting.
Pokemon Pinball did 5 million.
Yeah, Pokemon Pinball did 5 million.
Why don't they make a new one?
They did. It
Great
was on the
question.
GBA.
Make a new one. Another new
I don't
one.
think GBA qualifies as new anymore, James.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just giving them shit.
I'd like to point out right now, by the way, that New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe managed to move another like 2.28 million this year.
Yes, it did.
It got if I remember correctly, at least based on if you look on Nintendo's Japanese site to look at top selling their top 10 units or top 10 selling games, you'll see that Ring Fit's at the very bottom of the list, and right below it would be New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe.
Right below it would be New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Ring Fit has pushed it out now. Ring Fit also pushed out Splatoon in the top 10.
It did.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah. So,
there's no Splatoon on here, which is actually weird.
So Splatoon 2 does not have the kind of legs that everything else does.
Yeah.
I imagine obviously Splatoon 3 also has a little to do with that. So Splatoon obviously has been a huge success this gen, right? But it generally does like another like 500,000 to like 700K ish a year, not quite a million. Right?
Was this the first time it hasn't been on the top 10?
I think this is the first time this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is the first time that it got kicked out of the top 10. I mean, this is the again, we have that Luigi's Mansion, Splatoon 2, and Mario Deluxe are all games that have sold more than 10 million, but that is not enough to be a top 10 on the Switch anymore.
Yeah.
No, you gotta be a JRPG fitness game that uses two weird peripherals.
I mean,
starring a gigantic bear
dragon
man.
Isn't it? If I remember correctly, isn't it still pretty much the best-selling new JRPG in recent memory?
It absolutely is. It is.
Which game is that?
Ring Fit Adventure.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I phased out when you said JRPG, but then I came back when you said.
It's the best-selling new IP or JRPG for sure. It's also the best-selling JRPG not called Pokemon.
Or Kingdom Hearts or
I
whatever.
don't think Kingdom Hearts.
No. It is not. It is outsold every Kingdom Hearts. It is basically sold every Final Fantasy except for I think 7 and 14, which 14's an MMO. Do we even count that? You know, and then. And like Dark Souls 3 and Monster Hunter World, if you even count those as JRPGs.
Monster Hunter is not a JRPG.
Dark Souls is not a JRPG.
Dark Souls, I would give it to you on the most technical of definitions.
But that is to say, Ring Fit has sold more than almost every Final Fantasy, definitely more than every Dragon Quest, more than every Persona, all these series. Like it's sold way more. Ring Fit. Look at that. Best JRPG. I mean, Pokemon, obviously, is number one.
Finally, JRPGs are good and make you strong.
Well, it's like we spoke about it briefly before we started recording, but Ring Fit, and I guess to a lesser extent Game Builder Garage, really carried Labo's weight, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Labo was a big failure, right? But that team bounced back real quick, right? Like, Ring Fit came out a year after Labo, a year and a half. And Game Builder did another. I mean, Game Builder basically did as much as the best-selling Labo game.
And it was a budget title.
And it was
too,
and that
game
also
got worth mentioning.
I mean, the marketing for Labo, I'm sure, was way more than the marketing for Game Builder.
Yeah, I'm sure it was more expensive too. Yeah.
Now, there is a lot of talk that I don't necessarily agree with about a game on this list that has sold an insane number of copies.
Are you talking about Animal Crossing?
I'm talking about Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to set the record straight. But yeah, go.
Before we go on to that, there was a lot of buzz around that game being boosted by the pandemic.
2.0.
And I don't necessarily I think Animal Crossing New Horizons would have been the breakout moment with or without COVID.
James, thank you. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Do you think Ring Fit Adventure would have been as big of a success without the need for people to have a way to exercise inside in a fun way?
Yes and no.
I feel like
because I think Ring Fit Adventure came out at the perfect time to be boosted by COVID.
I think Ring Fit definitely got a boost from the pandemic. That is undeniable. There was like an undeniable demand for exercise at home because of COVID, right? However, I do think it's worth noting, even before COVID, because COVID really got its start worldwide in March of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Even before that, though, Ring Fit came out September 2019, 6 months before that, and it was consistently sold out for those 6 months, and it had done a couple million already by that point, right? So I do think Ring Fit, like, was already gonna do really, really well, but I do think the pandemic helped that game a lot in terms of, like, you know, just undeniably, people wanted to be able to exercise at home.
Well, right? And I think that it made a lot of people aware that it was an option. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it made people realize that the game exists, and and to its credit though, like, because the thing that annoys me about the COVID conversation, the COVID bump, when it comes to Ring Fit and Animal Crossing, is like it's not like people picked up these games it's like COVID made these people pick up these games, right? It's that these games are really appealing, right? And are just really, they happen to be very well suited to the times we're in, right? But they are fundamentally very appealing products, and I think it's unfair to just attribute their success to COVID did it.
Right?
I think Animal Crossing still sells amazingly. I think it sells a little less though.
Maybe a little less, but I think it still sells. I think it still ends up doing more than basically every Switch game not named Mario Kart. I really do.
Oh, sure, yes, I agree with that.
Well, it was Animal Crossing's turn. Like, after the 3DS version sold almost 15 million copies, it's like that. The next one that's on a popular
I think people don't realize that, right? Like, New Leaf on the 3DS sold
massive,
like 14 million copies or something, right?
With legs, like that. It sold out over the course of like 6 years.
And so, like, if that did it on 3DS, and every 3DS to Switch has just been, like, such a huge bump, right? There's been this pent-up demand for Animal Crossing. It was always destined to be just huge.
It skipped a console.
It's very anecdotal, but I was talking to a friend, and they were like, oh, like, for the pandemic, like, I was supposed to, like, get, like, a trip for, like, a present, but, like, I couldn't go on a trip because of COVID, so I asked for a Switch and Animal Crossing.
And Animal Crossing, yeah. I mean, COVID undoubtedly has just helped the platform in general, right? Like, I think the demand for the Switch has risen.
It's kind of ironic, right? Like the hybrid console, the one that's a big deal is you
the one that you can take it on the go.
You can take it wherever you want to go, but you can't go anywhere because you're going to.
I think it still works so well in like a house with like multiple people.
Oh,
it absolutely does.
Yeah, when you think like, oh, everyone's stuck at home and we only have 1, 2, maybe 3 TVs and we have 4 or 5 people in the house, right? Suddenly, people having their own screen to do things is a very enticing proposition.
Well, even without multiple people in a house, if you work from home and you're sitting at a computer desk and you just have your Switch sitting there on the side, being like,
it's a very convenient console. I mean, even without accounting for COVID, like I think our lifestyle, society, right, is just trending more in the direction where convenience kind of trumps all. Right?
Yeah. Right,
and,
sure.
Yeah.
And so the Switch is just a product that makes sense for the times that we're living in, you know? Like, it is just, like, a very smart product.
You can play your Animal Crossings, you can play your Marios, you can work out, you can do anything.
You can play Skyrim.
You can do it all.
If you really want to, for some reason, in the year of our Lord, 2022, you can play Todd Howard's Greatest Mistake.
Now, there's 3 games I haven't talked about yet. Before we move on to the final topic, which is hardware. Most people put hardware at the top. I don't think that that's the most important story.
I don't either.
No, it's the least interesting by far.
Yeah, it is the least interesting.
Because I care what people are playing, not what they're playing at all.
Right. Yeah. But we will touch on it. Don't worry. If that's what you care about, we're almost there.
There's a certain elephant in the room.
But there is a certain elephant in the room. And so, I want to talk about these 3 games. So, Animal Crossing, first and foremost. So, there has been this idea that has been... I've seen it on forums, I've seen it on Discord, I've seen it in our Discord. That Animal Crossing...
We won't name names.
...has poor legs. right?
What?
I have seen this idea quite a bit. Animal Crossing, it had this huge start, but it just feels like Nintendo hasn't been able to capitalize, and it's led to a lot of missed potential with Animal Crossing.
Hasn't it, doubled since launch?
If Animal Crossing has poor legs, it has sold another 5 million copies this fiscal year, right? That is more than every other game they released this fiscal year, except for Pokemon Diamond Brilliant, besides BDSP and Mario Party Superstars. And has done more than Smash Ultimate, which has amazing legs, more than Breath of the Wild, which we established has amazing legs, Sword and Shield, etc. Like, it has done better than all these games. Animal Crossing is the second biggest game on the Switch, and continues to be the second biggest game on the Switch.
I think it's worth mentioning that... So the third bestseller on Switch right now is Smash Ultimate, and the difference in units between the two of them, with Animal Crossing in second, is roughly 10 million. So it's not exactly like it's exactly like in contention.
And it came out like a year and a half after Smash.
Yeah, it came out way after Smash did.
And it had significantly less of a consistent post-launch hype cycle. If anything, the post-launch cycle for Animal Crossing was a lot of disappointment from the people playing Animal Crossing.
I mean, in the last 9 months, Animal Crossing has sold about more than a third of Animal Crossing New Leaf's lifetime sales.
Yeah, I don't understand. I actually hadn't seen that anecdote because I don't hang out in the sales channels, but I would find that pretty funny.
Yeah, that is it's absurd.
What do these people expect? The Switch, I know you said you're going to talk about hardware soon, but the Switch just recently crossed 100 million, right?
Yes, it did. And we'll talk about that.
That means that 40% of the people that own the console own Animal
Crossing, correct. And that is just a ridiculous attach rate.
Animal Crossing, it's not a Mario game. 40% of the people that own this console own Animal Crossing.
And so I think I would firmly say that Animal Crossing is basically number 2 to Mario Kart in terms of their most important franchises. Animal Crossing is just that big of a deal.
That's insane. It's like Animal Crossing may as well be I'm not saying it should be the face of Nintendo, but we were talking earlier about Mario, Zelda, and Metroid. Let's have a conversation about Mario, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, and Splatoon. Yeah, it's kind of wild. I assume
it's crazy. It is very crazy.
I assume the next one you're going to talk about is the actual elephant in the room, the 43 million.
Yeah.
Before we go to that though, I do want to mention, obviously I'm sure that 2.0 and Happy Home Paradise helped on some level, and I think they will continue to help this game's legs, but they are not the only reason why that game.
Oh no! That game would have legs no matter what.
Sure. I believe that because it was almost a year, more than a year and a half. It was like a year and 7 months before it got a substantial content update.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Really well,
and that's what I was saying. For it to be 10 million units ahead of Smash Brothers, a game that for 3 solid years had DLC consistently coming out.
And not the DLC, right? Months. High budget marketing continuously, right?
Yeah, Game Awards reveals, Sephiroth.
People just don't want to fight anymore. We just want to be friends.
They were spending a lot of money promoting Smash Brothers for 3 continuous years, and Animal Crossing is selling more than that game. Yeah,
I don't know what people want from it. Did they expect it to sell another 25 million units this year?
I don't know. There's this absurd idea that there's missed opportunity with Animal Crossing, and I fail to see how a 37 Animal Crossing Horizons is going to end up being the best selling new release this generation. It's gonna pass Red Dead Redemption 2. It's past basically every Call of Duty this gen. The only games that are sold better are games that came out last gen, like GTA 5 and Minecraft.
It's gaining on Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Mario Kart. Mario Kart has basically sold once again, in 9 months, has sold what it essentially did Lifetime on the Wii U.
So yeah, I want to talk about that real quick. We joked about how 3D World is almost double what the Wii U version was. The Wii U version of Mario Kart 8 versus the Switch version. You're looking at almost a different, by a factor of 9.
There's one caveat though, is that they advertise, they sell those like Switch like bundles with Mario Kart all the time, and those
No. It is not all the time. They only sell that bundle on Black Friday weekend.
Oh, is that only that?
Yeah, that is only Black Friday weekend. That is 3 days out of 365. Like, Mario Kart does not get an asterisk, okay?
And if you want something wild, that box with the Mario Kart included on it, that bundle actually sells pretty well.
That bundle sells so well.
Like on eBay.
It sells out immediately.
And it sells more. It sells for more than like a Switch plus the game. That's how hard it is to find that box if people want it.
That's amazing.
That is so stupid. I've
seen it. I'm just like, I don't understand.
43 million units. Okay. Wow. It is going to sell 50 million units at a minimum. It has passed Mario Kart Wii, which everyone thought was impossible, right? Mario Kart Wii was going to be forever and ever the peak of the franchise in terms of sales, right? And Mario Kart is not only has passed that, but it's gonna blow past that.
Well, it's already.
It is already. It has sold more than Super Mario Brothers, the NES Super Mario Brothers. So Mario Kart Deluxe is Nintendo's best-selling single release outside of Wii Sports ever.
Wow.
Do you think it's just like because it continues to sell? It's not stopping. It's not like it is their second best-selling game this year. Period.
I would just like to take a moment and be thankful that Mario Kart Wii is no longer the best-selling Mario Kart. Taste finally won. We finally defeated it.
I wanted to just touch on that for a second. Just Mario Kart's continued popularity. It's just it's the perfect mix of everybody fucking knows how to play Mario Kart, and they're also really fun games.
Yeah, anybody.
I think it's a hard balance to strike.
Do you want to know
it's just one of those games that anyone can play, and anyone can do
nasty.
Do you want to know something nasty?
Give me the nasty.
Yeah.
It is only 2 million copies away from selling more than Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow combined. Not even Red and Blue. You throw in Yellow, and it will still sell more than those games.
It's also just fun to mention that if you combine Wii U sales, we are over 50 million.
Oh yeah. If you include the Wii U version, it has passed the 50 million mark. It is.
Well, and then as a quick aside, just to throw this out there because we kind of got lost in the mix. You mentioned Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee moved another million units this year.
It moved another million units 3 years after release.
Not just 3 years after release.
And after Sword and Shield have come out, after Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl have come out, it still pushed another million copies.
I understand that the next game you're probably going to want to talk about is Diamond
Pokemon?
and Pearl.
Yeah. Yes.
And Diamond and Pearl are going to overtake Let's Go. It's very close.
Oh, Diamond and Pearl in a month and a half.
It probably already has.
are just 400K away.
Okay,
from passing.
They already have passed it.
Or no, not 400. 40. 400K. It is 400K away from passing Let's Go. It has definitely passed it by now. So this is by far the best opening that a Pokemon remake has had. Easily. It's
so funny because there's so much doom about it.
In a month and a half, it has sold more than Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Bless.
It is going to outsell Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which is the best-selling Pokemon remake. It is literally 500,000 away from outselling Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Less than 500,000 actually. And quite frankly, it's probably going to become so because right now all the new generations of Pokemon are those are the best selling Pokemon games. There's never been a remake or spin-off or anything that has sold better than the worst selling new generation of Pokemon,
Sure.
right? Which is Pokemon Black and White.
Yeah.
This game is gonna pass Black and White. This game is going to pass
wild.
Pokemon Black and White.
Do you think that the Diamond and Pearl have a risk of having their legs cut off by Arceus, or do you think it doesn't matter?
No, because
No.
I think the fact that you pointed out Let's Go proves that point entirely, right? I think that the Pokemon games this generation have just done a really good job differentiating themselves. Sword and Shield, Let's Go, BDSP, and now Arceus just offer so fundamentally different experiences, right? They're just so different that I think that there's continued appeal. Like, I think the fact that Let's Go is continuing selling says it all. Like, I think BDSP will have better legs than Let's Go did. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Let's Go had really good legs, quite frankly. Absurdly good legs. It should not have had that good legs, and it did.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's still in the top 10 best-selling...
Which,
that's actually kind of a trend. If you look at the other console, the handhelds at least, Pokemon is a pretty consistent presence in the
ends
top
up
10.
being... In all of their handhelds, Pokemon takes up 2, 3, sometimes even 4 slots in that top 10.
The 3DS has 4 slots.
Wow.
X, Y, Ultra, all the mainline 3DS Pokemon games.
Though, in fairness, Let's Go will probably be pushed out by Ring Fit.
I think so.
But I say that, but then immediately goddamn Arceus is going to be back on that top.
Because Arceus already sold almost 7 million units.
Yeah. It is very relevant.
That game came out a week ago.
Sword and Shield in a week sold 6.5 million copies. The previous best-selling first week for a Pokemon game was 6 million. It has sold 500,000 more in the first week than any other Pokemon game. The previous record holder, by the way, was Sword and Shield and BDSP tied, which is so stupid.
I think Arceus really just gave it like a kick in the ass.
Arceus,
we'll talk about Arceus pretty soon.
Yeah,
I'm getting my game this week. I'm excied.
Off to an amazing start. Good for Arceus.
Yeah, good for that game. I'm glad it's doing well.
I mean, we are now and speaking of Pokemon sales, I don't know if you guys saw, but the NPD for 2021 recently released, a few weeks back, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think. No, a little longer, 3-4 weeks ago, right? But 2021, Matt Piscatella tweeted this out. It was the highest level of Pokemon dollar sales that the NPD has ever tracked. As a franchise.
That's extremely significant.
So are we living in Pokemania version 2.0?
We are currently living in Pokemania version 2. Yes. This is Pokemon is now seeing heights that it has not seen since the Game Boy.
Wow.
It's so funny to me. Pokemon is one of the very few franchises in any medium that I've ever seen such a disparate feeling between how the games do and how the super fans react to it, you know? The gulf between how people online seem to expect Pokemon to be received versus how it's actually received, it could not be any different.
Oh, I mean, we kind of glossed over it, but Sword and Shield has just been such an amazing success this gen, right? Again, it is the second best-selling Pokemon in new generation. It has outsold Gold and Silver, which, again, Game Boy was the heights of Pokemania, right? Sword and Shield, and to me that points that, hey, you don't have that good legs without some level of good word of mouth, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I as much as it pains me to say this deep inside my soul, I am somewhat empathetic to the concerns and complaints of the people that complain about Pokemon online. It's very hard to ever want to agree with them because they are obnoxious and extremely difficult to deal with on a human level. But I can't get over this idea that these games are just like the worst thing ever made, like embarrassments to the craft, and like that's how they expect everybody to see these games when it moves 24 million units in 2 years.
Like that is just not the public perception of these games, right? Mm-hmm. Like the games are just really, 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 really popular. But to Game Freak's credit, like Pokemon is seeing the heights of its success right now. And yet, they just released a game that is the biggest shakeup that the franchise has seen in years, right? I don't think that Game Freak's resting on their laurels, if that was the concern, right? Because I'm someone who likes Sword and Shield. I like it a lot, in fact. James, I know you agree with me.
I don't think that the issue has ever been... Well, maybe it has been to a certain extent that they're, quote-unquote, resting on their laurels. The complaints I see are more that they're just not putting the amount of effort and time and money and care into the games that they can afford to, which is something I do understand. I understand where that complaint comes from, but I also have to wonder. I have to wonder if what are their goals? You know, maybe their goal is to just make a simple JRPG that kids can enjoy, and that adults can enjoy too if they kind of bring themselves down to not bring their expectations down to that of a kid's game. Like, I don't know how big of a company Game Freak is. Maybe they're a smaller team of people than the I don't necessarily need Pokemon to be an Ubisoft game, you know.
Oh no, and
where thousands of people are working on it all across the world.
Right. I think there's an interesting dichotomy there, right? Where we're I think we all agree that the trends that the industry has been going in with these ballooning budgets and this focus on production values and this and that have been a detriment to development teams.
Iwata was right, man. Iwata said it back when the Wii came out. That was going on 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
It was we didn't want to get in this graphics arm race. I'm paraphrasing here. Because eventually it's going to get to the point where it becomes detrimental to the people making the video games. And I think we're at that point now.
Oh, absolutely.
And, we're past that line, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we are.
If Game Freak wants to make I hope to God they're not crunching themselves to death to get these games out. Maybe they are. I don't know. And if they are, that's terrible. And I would not be surprised if they are, because that's just how this business works.
Right.
And it's awful. And I would prefer them to have more time to comfortably make the game that they want to make. But I don't need them to pour 4 or 5 years into a game that they make that's grand in scale or whatever. I would be happy with a pixel Pokemon game that looked like black and white, you know?
Yeah.
Granted, that might be more difficult because sprites are hard to make, and there's 1,000 Pokemon now, so... I don't know.
Yeah, it would be pretty dang hard. But yeah,
I think most people agree, is the thing. 24 million people bought the damn thing in 2 years.
Yeah, but I think underlying the main point here, I do think Sword and Shield, I clearly it was good enough for most people, right? And it's cool to see that it do that well, in my opinion. Alright, that's enough about software. Software did very fucking well. Yeah, you have any closing thoughts on that?
One thing.
Yeah?
One thing before we move on. This is back to Mario Kart for a second, but I want to put an evil question out here. And what I want to know, and I honestly, I don't know how this would be. I mean, this would be Nintendo's internal numbers, but I'm genuinely curious to see if there is any sort of trackable uptick in Mario Kart 8's 8 Deluxe's performance, even if minor, since the launch of Mario Kart Tour.
Well,
it obviously does not.
I think there could definitely be some sort of tie there, but I think more so it is that Mario Kart, generally, the better that the Switch does in any given year, the better Mario Kart does, right?
Yeah, and I definitely don't necessarily think that there's some massive uptick. But I'm curious as to what impact there is.
What impact that does have, yeah. I mean, but I do think if we were to attribute the success of a lot of these games to a single game, I do think that would be Animal Crossing, though. I do kind of think there's a Animal Crossing effect going on. I think part of the reason that Pokemon is doing better, the reason that BDSP did so freaking well, right, is I think Pokemon is a game that more naturally is attractive to the the new audience that Animal Crossing brought in, right? I think Mario Kart is like that. I think Mario Party Superstars is like that, right? I think there's a lot of games in that vein that I think had Animal Crossing not come out, I think these games would not be seeing as much. I think they would still be doing very well, but I do think that the Animal Crossing has brought in an audience of people that likes these kinds of games, though. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you bring in a significant, number of people new to the ecosystem every year, and evergreens in general are going to flourish because, that's what they are.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Especially the ones that are easily accessible.
So let's talk about how well this hardware did. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest headline when it comes to hardware sales is that they are missing projections, right?
Yeah.
They are dropping it by, I think the previous forecast was 24, and now it is 23. So they're cutting their forecast by 1 million. Right?
Oh, wow.
However, they did want to make clear that they believe that the cause for that is the lack of supply. They have said that particularly in North America, which keep in mind North America is Nintendo's biggest market by far, right?
Yep.
There has been a lot of scarcity because of delays in production and distribution since Black Friday, is what they said.
Yep.
So Nintendo themselves are blaming supply issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
But despite that, and I think it's so funny because like the headline is, big drop in sales or whatever, right? Like 20% decrease year over year or whatever, right? It is still their second biggest year for Switch hardware.
I mean, honestly, wake up, sheeple. This is just a smoke screen for the incoming Switch Pro announcement. It is definitely going to happen.
Definitely on the way.
So I can't even say that with a straight face.
I do think it's also...
Clay's going to kill me.
Also worth noting that they upward projected their software numbers by 20 million.
Mention that, yeah. So despite them downcasting their hardware by 1 million, they upped their software forecast by 20 million. They were previously expecting, so I think it was 200 million units of software, and they're now forecasting 220. I might have got those numbers wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
I believe that's accurate. Yeah.
That must mean they're announcing Mario Kart 10. 20 million. That's where those 20 million units come from.
That's where those extra 20 million. Yeah.
Just made that up.
And they say it's because software has just been doing well above their expectations. And so even like their profit forecasts are not changed very much as far as I could tell. They're still expecting to have a certain amount of revenue. So they despite the decrease in hardware sales, again, and this is still their second biggest year ever. This is what, year 5? This was year 5 of the Switch?
Yep.
A system having its second best year in year 5? Or I guess year 4.
Yeah, we're starting
18, 19,
year 5.
20. No, 21 was 5th year. Because 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That was its 5th year.
I can't either.
So, in its 5th year, it had its second best year ever. I mean, I can't tell you if that's true for other platforms, but I can damn well tell you for Nintendo platforms, fuck no. That has never happened before.
No, Nintendo platforms falls off.
By year 5, Nintendo platforms look very sad.
Well, it's like what we were talking about earlier. By 2011, the Wii, Skyward Sword came out on a more popular console than 3D World did, but 5 years into the Wii, there wasn't a lot coming out.
2011, that was year 5 of the Wii.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The Wii was sad towards the end.
Can you... Because I have also seen people being like, oh, is the Switch going to have, like, Wii-level, like, drop-off? And the answer is clearly no. The answer is clearly no. Like, it is selling more than the Wii. ever has, like, in its 5th year. You know, it has now outsold the Wii, and it is not stopping anytime soon.
Well,
like,
I mean, the Switch is behind the Wii, and by year 5 of the Wii, we had a Rhythm Heaven game.
True.
and 2 Wii Sports games.
True. And it's worth noting, so they're still forecasting 23 million units, right? That is going to be their 3rd consecutive year of being above 20 million units, with demand not slowing down.
Put them damn near 130 million if they hit it by the end of the year.
But here's the kicker. We all agree PS4 was a massive success, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The PS4's
sales-wise.
Yeah, sales-wise. The PS4's peak year is 20.0 million units.
Wow.
The Switch is going to have 3 consecutive years where not only outdoes the singular peak year of this PS4, 3 consecutive years of doing that, and in some cases doing well above that. Even this year is going to be 3 million units above PS4's peak year.
See, this is why I'm glad we brought you, because I don't have any room in my head for that kind of knowledge, but it's funny to know.
Yeah, it is definitely funny to know.
And I want to be clear, like I know that four people hanging out in a Discord call recording a podcast about how well a big corporation's video games have sold. We probably sound like sycophants.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to be clear, at least on my part. I just find this interesting based on where the culture of video games is leaning.
Yeah. We're not saying yay, big company makes more money.
Yeah, I don't want it to come off like that. I just think it's extremely interesting to know how things are doing.
You know,
how the things that I like are doing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
with games, it's like,
probably
okay, if game I like does more money, then I can get more games I like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Metroid selling well means I might get another Metroid game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's why I think the numbers are important.
Hey, to be clear, though, you know, I don't think you have any explaining to do, because if you made it an hour and 20 minutes into a sales podcast, I think you're pretty dang interested.
Yeah, cut NES _ cut that out and put it at the beginning so they know I'm not a nerd, please. The thing I find most interesting about the hardware numbers, looking at them, it's actually kind of about the overall hardware numbers versus the overall software numbers, is you're looking at a attachment rate of almost 8 games.
It is. Oh, it's crazy. Nintendo system having this kind of attach rate is like unheard of. Like,
if you compare it to even the 3DS or, God forbid, the Wii.
I mean, the Wii is actually, I think their highest attach rate.
That is interesting. Game. I didn't expect the Wii's attach rate to be that good. I expected all the 90-year-olds that owned it just for Wii Sports. Just because they could move their arms to play tennis would drag that down,
but I think the difference between Wii and Switch in that regard, because Wii has had a really good attach rate, but it was all concentrated in titles that had Mario or Wii in the name,
sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. You know, whereas with the Switch, like, you look at the top 10, like, sure, it's got a lot of Pokemon now, but it's a pretty varied list, right? Like, well. You know, again, Splatoon is over 10 million. Ring Fit is above 10 million. You know, Luigi's Mansion, you know, Animal Crossing, all these franchises are doing better than they ever have before. And so the success of the Switch is kind of spread out in a lot of different directions, which I find very fascinating.
Well, what's also interesting about it is I feel like it actually is doing a better job of, achieving what they set out to do with the Wii.
Yes.
Because the Wii was always about, they talk about the quote-unquote blue ocean. You know, the people that don't play video games, generally speaking.
Yeah.
They were trying to hook those people and turn them into people that do play video games. Which they did. I don't think they achieved that as well as they wanted to. Or
no.
At least if they did, they failed moving into the Wii U and the 3DS because both of those systems were down pretty well, I mean, the 3DS less so, but still, the 3DS only sold about half.
It was still a 50% decline.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it wasn't as devastating as the Wii U, but it was a big drop.
Whereas the Wii, I think the Wii, there was a lot of interest in all the titles that had Wii in the name, right? Which is a very temporary thing. Whereas this game, like, if you become a fan of Animal Crossing, if you become a fan of Smash Brothers, Zelda, what have you, right? These are things that are going to hook you in long term, right? These are games that are not just like one-off experiences, right? And don't get me wrong, this is no disrespect to those Wii games. I like those games a lot. I think they're some of the best games ever made, quite frankly, right? But I do think like the kind of software that Switch is selling, it is selling lots of casual software like Ring Fit, right? But even in games like Ring Fit and Animal Crossing, which are skew and Hell Mario Kart, these are going to skew more all audiences. Right? But I think those games do a better job of hooking people into the continued Nintendo ecosystem than the Wii titles did.
Well, they certainly do a better job of introducing someone to video games than Wii Sports did.
Which, I mean, by the way, on that note, so they had a very interesting statistic on this page that I think is very much worth pointing out. Because the general perception is Wii fell off a cliff, right? And so generally, if you were someone who bought a Wii in the first, second, or third year, by year 5 you just weren't using it anymore, right?
Sure.
They said that this year, 2021, last year I should say, from January to December, they had 98 million annual users, and so that's you could say annual users is a silly statistic, like someone who used it at least once throughout the year. Right? But what that does indicate is that, hey, basically the entire fucking install base has used their Switch at some point in the last 12 months.
Yeah. Which is amazing. They're not just like letting this thing dust.
Yeah.
They're not just buying this for boom blocks and Wii Sports.
This is a system that has just continued interest, and even if you bought it in 2017, in 2018, 2019, you are still finding reason to use this system, and I can guarantee you that has never been the case for a Nintendo system before.
No.
Right?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up that number as well, because especially when you look at that number, which is 98 million plus, next to hardware sales worldwide, which is at what, 103 point something?
Yeah.
That is a very high number for an annual playing users.
I mean,
that is a very highly engaged ecosystem.
Yeah, engaged is the perfect word. There's a very high level of engagement with the Switch ecosystem that is just unprecedented for a Nintendo system in particular.
And you got to factor in all the weirdos like us who probably have more than one of them.
Oh, sure, but I would argue
that's what I'm saying. That makes that number even more impressive, because I have 2 Switches and one of them doesn't connect to the internet for reasons.
Yeah.
So they don't know that I'm using that one, and they don't need to know.
Yeah, or even people who have sold Switches. Even if you think about people who have gotten rid of systems, and maybe someone else picked them up, and maybe someone else didn't. But you even with all those factors at play, you still have a user base that has played games on your system in the past year that's as high as 98 million out of 103 million.
Basically, 100 million people are playing their Switch at least once in the year. That's just so impressive. That is just a really, really impressive statistic, and I think points to because I think there's been a lot that has been said on, can the Switch maintain this momentum going into a successor, right? Because we all love to point out the drop between Wii and Wii U, the drop from DS to 3DS, right? But the fact that that they have a very clear, hey, people are still using this fucking system, people are still buying software, people are still doing this and that, I think that bodes really well for Nintendo's future prospects in hardware.
As long as they don't do something stupid, name it I don't even know,
the Switch Eye,
the 6 Switch or something like that. What is a 3DS?
Switch OLED Plus.
Yeah, the new Super Switch 9. I don't know. I don't know. Furukawa seems to me like a businessman, right? Mm-hmm. He kind of keeps his mouth shut. He doesn't put himself out there like Iwata did. He seems to work very much behind the scenes. I get this is based off of literally nothing but how well the Switch is done. I get the vibe that man seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean,
and
this is something that he specifically talked about, right? Was that we want to make sure that we are sustaining an audience going into our next generation platform. That is, I'm paraphrasing him, but he literally said that, right? Like, they understand the importance of not just having this great success right now, but maintaining that success.
I didn't know that he said that, but that does not surprise me based off the vibes I get from him. Whenever I've read the words that he has said.
Yeah.
So that actually gives me a lot of hope that we're going to get a backward compatible Switch 2.
I think a lot of people
clean upgrade.
Fingers crossed.
That's going to play all the games. It's going to play them better. I just want the Switch 2 to be what the PS5 is to the PS4 and the Series X is to the Xbone. Just please give that to me. That's all I want.
I think a lot of people interpreted that sentence that he said in the same way, and I would be inclined to agree. Like, that's kind of my read on their future plans as well. The fact that the CEO and president of the company is saying these things, I think, is very encouraging for what this means for the Switch platform going forward. Like, I do think and really do hope that, like you said, it is like a PS4 to PS5, like an Xbox One to Xbox Series X, right? Of just this, it's the same thing but better, and we like that because the Switch is pretty freaking rad.
And I love.
And there's room for innovation in there, right? Like the inherent, the inherent setup of the removable controllers means they can pack more wacky tech into the Joy-Con 2s if they want. You know,
right? That's what I was gonna say. Like, I love a hot Nintendo shake-up as much as anybody else. I was in line for the Wii. I thought the Wii U was a great idea, sort of. I love the two screens. I think the two screens is a great thing for video games, and I'm kind of sad we probably won't see that again for another long time, maybe ever. But I'm always down for Nintendo to do whatever the hell they want to do to shake things up. I just think that they can do it within the realm of a hybrid machine. And the Switch already, in my opinion, has shown that they're willing to play fast and loose with what that means. They release all these different types of controllers for it.
I mean, the
Ring Con is weird.
Isn't that proof enough that there's still room to do weird ass shit? I mean, Labo was that. Labo wasn't a success, mind you, but Labo does show that, even within this framework of a hybrid that plays like a traditional system, they can do a lot of weird shit with it.
Yes.
A lot of innovative stuff with it that's true to that spirit of Nintendo.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, Labo made use of the IR camera, which was why did they put that on there?
Skyward Sword controls better on the Switch with motion than it did on the Wii.
Yeah, agreed.
So does Galaxy.
And so, this is Nintendo's hardware in its ultimate form factor, and so I think we all agree we just want that to continue. Right, and I think, and I would say all of this that we've talked about today is an encouraging sign that will continue.
Well, I also think it would be borderline market suicide to drop out of the handheld market because that's always kind of been Nintendo's bread. Well, not always.
It's
been
always.
They can't go back.
I will say always. It has always been Nintendo's bread and butter. Since the Game Boy came out.
Since the Game & Watch.
In a lot of situations, it's been the only thing keeping them truly afloat, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the Wii U...
The GameCube and the Wii U times were hard carried by their handheld counterparts. And the N64 to an extent, too.
Yeah.
So I don't see a world where they abandon the handheld market.
I mean, I don't see them abandoning the hybrid concept either, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say next. Is I also don't see them ever wanting to split again.
No, you can't.
No,
I don't think you can't get devs on board again for that.
No.
Those times are over.
I feel like whenever they pulled the trigger on the Switch because they needed to in 2017 because it was kind of a do or die situation there, you know. They obviously weren't going to go away forever or anything, but the Wii U was dire. But it's once you pull that, you don't put that toothpaste back in the tube, man. You got this hybrid console, that's what people want.
There's a demand for this,
not not to mention internally, they've kind of restructured their teams to kind of be all mixed up and together. So you have those previous, handheld only teams, now working on stuff alongside the guys who worked on traditional console
and the games,
stuff. Like internally, they've kind of set themselves for it.
And the games that historically did really well on handheld do just fine, if not better.
Yeah.
Oh, better than ever, and selling at goddamn $60 a pop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
true. Man, wait, is Brain Age a $60 game?
No, Brain Age is a $30 release.
And only in.
I'm sorry, not Brain Age. Big Brain Academy.
Big Brain. Yeah, Big Brain is a $30 release. That was
30. Yeah.
And WarioWare was 50.
50, and Game Builder was 30. Yeah,
30.
So, okay. but so there's room for other. But Pokemon previously had never been more than $40. Now it's selling at fucking $60 and it's selling better than ever.
And
right?
Animal Crossing was historically bigger on handhelds. It was like $30-$40. Yeah, now it's a full price. Plus DLC.
So to tie it all back together, like the theme of this podcast, right? Like sales, right? I do think like the hybrid platform, right, has just been, and the Switch in particular, has just been this perfect element of like their hardware is selling like their handhelds do, maybe even better, right? Their software is selling at premium console level prices, right? And it's selling better than ever. And they're able to take advantage both of the idea of playing on the go, but also leveraging stuff you can really only do in home console with like local multiplayer, right? It's just been this thing of like this perfect situation for Nintendo, and they have seen success that. They're more successful right now than they were in the Wii DS era, when they had two systems that were on top of the world, right?
Two amazing selling systems.
Nintendo's really at their peak right now, and I really hope to see that continue. I hope they don't rest on their laurels much. I hope they continue to, give us good
innovate with things like Breath of the Wild and RCS.
Yeah.
So RCS is going to join that 10 million club.
Oh, yeah.
In like 5 days.
Do you think Kirby will?
Okay, I don't think Kirby will, but if it does, Lord have mercy.
Don't hurt me like this.
I do think 3D Kirby will sell.
I think it'll be the best on Kirby.
Well.
I'm willing to put my stamp on it. It will become the best on Kirby. Game
what's that? What is that ceiling?
Like 5 million something.
Oh, okay, so what you're telling me is 3D Kirby 2 in 2027 will be the 10 million club.
Yeah. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for listening to this podcast, though. Well, we went pretty long, but I had a good time. I think we had a good conversation.
Yeah.
For people, I talk a lot.
That
I'm
was
sorry.
A lot of fun.
We have fun here.
Yeah, we have fun here. Surely, if you made to the end, you clearly enjoy listening to some extent, right? So we appreciate that. You can find us every week on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, basically anywhere you can find a goddamn podcast. We are there. Yep. We're also on YouTube. Oh.
Now Stitcher as well now.
Oh, we just added Stitcher. Look at that. We have a Discord. I think it's literally discord.gg/Nintendo Pipeline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently asked for an invite, and I was like, "Oh, look at our fancy URL."
Yeah. You can also find the link on nintendopipeline.wordpress.com as well.
Yes. But yeah, you can find Jared, Clay, and James pretty much every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Anything I missed with plugs?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Good job.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting and guesting and having all the responsibility today.
Yeah, thanks for the unbelievable well of knowledge you have about video game
Thank you for your number knowledge.
Because I don't. That might sound sarcastic, but I actually do find it fascinating. I'm glad that somebody is like capable of keeping all that in.
Yeah.
Yep, and we didn't even talk about my bad cereal habits this week, so that's,
look at that.
That's good.
We need new hot takes every week.
Yeah, I gotta comb Clay's Twitter for the problematic tweets.
I heard that one. Well, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.